trust me, the military Commander Tafumane, fires shots at citizens. Yo, you don't want to hear what he said. Stick around. We need to remind public servants that they are employed by the people and they are accountable to the people while they respect their leaders. Because in Zimbabwe, it's like being a commander in chief simply means you own the country. I'm not surprised why Mnangagwa behaves the way that he does. It's not his fault. We created a culture of chaos, and this chaos is exactly what we are reaping. It is time for us to really fix our country. So I can see some of you are joining me right now. If it's your first time, please subscribe, like the video, share with others, and hype it if you can see the hype button as well. It's so good to see you. The streets are buzzing, literally. I hate some people say they're being told to leave town on time. Today, you need to leave. We've seen quite a number of military cars, the police vehicles across the country. Mnangagwa is on panic mode. But I'm not surprised when the people stand up and say enough, it is just enough. It is enough. Some of us, we aren't politicians at all, but we are fed up of seeing a country dying right under our eyes. You and I must do everything in our power to make sure that Zimbabwe is free. We don't have a choice. Before I actually read what he said, there's a tweet that I wanted to read for you. Very important tweet. We're going to look at the comment that was written by Hopo. Hopo Chingono wrote in depth. Such an important comment. But let me look at Jacqueline Sanders' comment. Good to see you. Please drop your location. I would want to know where you're watching us from. Drop your location. It's so good to have you here. All right. Jacqueline said tomorrow is a big day. Zimbabweans, don't miss this opportunity to express your stand disapproval of Constitutional Amendment 3. Zimbabwe does not belong to one individual. It is for us all. Constitutional Amendment 3 takes Zimbabwe far from democracy and into autocracy. It is your right to vote and choose your leaders. No one is ordained to lead Zimbabwe forever. It is your constitutional right to protect peaceful against this authoritarian expressed through CA3. Do not be intimidated by the same people who stole your right to vote. I'm a firm believer that when it's time, it is just time. There is no amount of manipulation that will save Emmerson Mnangagwa. It is time. Zimbabwe has to be free. You can't escape. It is time. Please confirm if you can hear me clearly. I need to know while you drop your location. It's important. And I'll send you my love and light as well. Those from Zimbabwe, there's someone who sent me a message from Guruva. I just want to say how you're doing. It's so good to have you here. All right, let me read the message that was actually sent out by military commander Tafumane to the Zimbabwean people. And I think he's forgotten that we employed him. We are paying his salary. Let me give you a bit of a resume of who Commander Tafumane is, actually. He's the same guy that abducted and tortured Justina Mukoko. For those who don't know, he was convicted in the Zimbabwean courts of the very same crime. How did you wake up and be the commander in the defense forces? That is a question we need to ask. Again, it shows you how broken our country is. Emmerson Mnangagwa has crossed the Rubicon, and it's time for us to tell him who he is, because I think he has forgotten. You have seen a lot of videos circulating on social media where Maponga is introducing Munumutapa Kingdom. He's trying so hard to convince you that elections aren't great, democracy doesn't work, but what's important is the monarchy, turning Mnangagwa to be a king. Mnangagwa is 84 years old. How is that kingship going to benefit us Zimbabweans, if I may ask? Or it is for his children, because he knows what is done against the people of Zimbabwe. So let's read the message from the military commander. He said, we want people to go to work peacefully. We want the shops to function. We want the borders to function. We want every aspect of Zimbabwean society to function without disruption. And in peace, we grow. We grow when there is peace. We don't want silly disruptions by adults who want to make a living out of disorder. Let me conclude by wishing both the incoming and outgoing commanders all the best of luck in their endeavors and assignments. I will always continue to render to you all the necessary support to enable you to carry out your constitutional mandates as per my directives and instructions. Our distinguished guest families with us today, let me most sincerely thank you for sparing your precious time. Zimbabweans, don't be intimidated. This is an already finished game. The most important goal that we're focusing on now is to make sure criminals are behind bars. Don't be intimidated. And don't be intimidated. He did not see this thing coming. Mnangagwa thought he had it all under control. No, he didn't have a clue. He didn't have a clue. So let's look at that comment from Hopo Chingono, please. That comment is in depth on what is actually going on right now. And I'm glad. I'm glad because the time of trusting politicians is past. I'm not saying you should not choose a politician that you like. No, you must. But seriously, Zimbabwe comes first before any politician that is. I'm referring to Mnangagwa right now, who will today and forever. Zimbabwe is bigger than any politician. So for us to underestimating our needs and wants, because there is another person there like Mnangagwa who is using any type of violence to force our people into believing that abuse is right, should never be tolerated. Let me now read what Wopo Shingono said. It's quite a long message, but it is an important one. He said, when I first criticized Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, now the Constitutional of Zimbabwean Act number 3, I made it clear that at the times it was being pushed through Parliament, nobody had the political capacity to stop what President Emmerson Mnangagwa wanted to achieve. That was not political pessimism. It was simply an assessment based on Zimbabwe's history and the balance of power. However, I also said something else that is now beginning to unfold before our eyes. I said that Constitutional Amendment number 3 would become the rallying point of a new struggle against oppression, incompetence, corruption, and authoritarianism in Zimbabwe. History shows that opposition to repression, in Zimbabwe has evolved in waves. The first major resistance came from Joshua Ngomo and ZAPU before they were absorbed by ZANU through the UNITA Code, creating what is now ZANU-PF. The second significant change came from Edgar Tekere, the former ZANU-PF Secretary General and a liberation hero, who was among the first senior figures inside ZANU-PF openly reject corruption and authoritarianism. His challenge, however, never developed into a movement capable of threatening the system. There were also smaller political initiatives such as Forum, led by former Chief Justice Enoch Dumbujena, but they failed to gain sufficient national traction because the economy was still okay but starting to wobble. The first truly formidable democratic challenge came with Morgan Tsvangirai and the movement for democratic change. For the first time, ZANU-PF faced a political movement capable of defeating it electronically. However, through a combination of state repression and the MDC's own endeavor divisions, that challenge eventually weakened, fragmented, and lost momentum. That is why I argued why Constitutional Amendment number 3 was still being debated, that this legislation would unintentionally create a new center of political resistance. What was then called CAP 3 and what is now Constitutional Amendment Act number 3? It's become the issue around which different stands of opposition are beginning to converge. Many people, including the government, are focused on July 31st as though it is a single event. I do not see it that way. Using the analytical tools of history, journalism, and political science, I see it as the beginning of a long political struggle rather than a single day of protest. Governments often prefer to reduce such movements to isolate events because it turned out is law or demonstrations are suppressed. They can claim victory by saying they tried and they failed. But political history teaches us that transformative movements rarely begin with spectacular victories. They usually begin quietly before gathering momentum over time. Everyone understands why many Zimbabweans are afraid to demonstrate. The memory of August 1st, 2018, when civilians were killed by soldiers and no one was held accountable, remains deeply embedded in the national consciousness. Fear is therefore a rational response, yet fear alone cannot permanently suppress political discontent when the underlying causes remain unresolved. What is emerging now is what I would describe as the third major wave of organized opposition to ZANU-PF rule. It is different from previous movements because it includes not only traditional opposition figures, constitutional campaigners, and civil society, but also elements within ZANU-PF itself who genuinely oppose the extension of President Mnangagwa's rule and the erosion of constitutional democracy. That combination makes it potentially more significant than many realize. Unfortunately, those who should naturally be working together often spend more time attacking one another than confronting the root source of the crisis. Some members of the anti-extension faction within ZANU-PF attack traditional opposition figures, while sections of the opposition attack those inside ZANU-PF who oppose Constitutional Amendment Number 3. Lies, insults, and factional battles only strengthen the very system they all claim to oppose. I've watched the mobilization of ministers, security chiefs, and the state operators with great interest. It confirms that the authorities themselves understand that this is about much more than one day's demonstration. States do not mobilize their entire security machinery unless they recognize a deeper political challenge. No government should ignore the warning signs that accompany prolonged economic hardship. A combination of an aging leadership and trade to corruption, collapsing public services, high unemployment, and millions of citizens leaving their country in search of opportunities elsewhere is not a sustainable political formula. Eventually, something has to give. If I were sitting in President Mnangagwa's office today, my advice would be very simple. I would respectfully say, Your Excellency, unite the country. Do not deepen its divisions. A winner-takes-it-all approach creates more enemies than friends and leaves a dangerous political legacy. History across Africa is full of examples showing that the consequences of how power is exercised endure more generations longer after that power has passed to someone else. Look at Angola. The family of former President José Santos once appeared politically and economically untouchable. Today, many of those privileges have disappeared, and the Angolan state has recovered or disposed of its significant assets linked to that era. I also detect a growing regional dimension to this debate. South Africa's immigration crisis cannot be understood without examining governance failures elsewhere in the region. Large numbers of migrants from Zimbabwe and Mozambique are not leaving their countries because they enjoy migration. They are leaving because economic collapse, unemployment, corruption, and political mismanagement have made survival increasingly difficult at home. Immigration is therefore not simply a border issue, it is the consequence of failed governance. For that reason, I hope President Mnangagwa is surrounded by advisors who are willing to tell him difficult truth rather than comforting lies. You cannot indefinitely govern a hungry population through fear. You cannot permanently silence unemployed young people, sorry. You cannot ignore the fact that millions of your own citizens have left the country, creating political and social pressures across the region. Nor should any governing party assume that its regional allies will remain politically dominant forever. Governments rise and governments fall. Political parties win elections and lose them. Wise leaders prepare for history rather than assume they can outrun it. The challenges facing Zimbabwe require imagination, reconciliation, constitutionalism, and economic reform. They require leadership that rebuilds trust rather than depends division. Jackboot politics may postpone a crisis for a while, but history repeatedly shows that it never resolves one. While it's all the securities chiefs are being mobilized across Zimbabwe to instill the fear of God, it would be protesters. The easiest way out of this crisis is to deal with its root cause rather than its symptoms. What are the root causes? If I were president, I would sit down with all political actors in Zimbabwe and genuinely seek a national solution instead of pursuing a scorched earth policy of threats, intimidation, and repression. No country can build lasting peace by governing through fear. Zimbabweans cannot continue to live in abject poverty, endure unbearable economic hardships, and watch millions of their fellow citizens leave the country, while expecting that security deployments alone will bring stability. Sustainable stability comes from political dialogue, constitutionalism, economic reform, accountable governance, and giving citizens hope that tomorrow will be better than today. Force may suppress dissent temporarily, but it has never solved the underlying grievances that give rise to it. So while the state may treat tomorrow as a single event, in reality, it marks the beginning of a new struggle against repression, corruption, incompetence, and unconstitutionalism. History teaches us that transformative political movements rarely begin with one decisive moment. They begin with an idea, gather momentum over time, and eventually reshape nations. History rarely gets it wrong. He's right. I'm asking you to like the video, please, and share with others. The fact remains, this is the beginning of Emerson Mnangagwa's end, without a shadow of a doubt. I know some people think it's a joke because I've seen some saying, no, there were times that you guys called for protests and nothing really happened. That was then. We talk about today and we talk about now. We talk about a kingdom that is knocking at the door. I think you've seen him, Ponga, across social media, calling out that it's time for us to promote Emerson Mnangagwa into a king. That is a threat. When you talk of democracy, it's one thing. It's a threat to our own lives. We have lived this under such, brutal conditions for the past, I don't know, decades. So now it's life or death. It's homeland or death. It's non-negotiable. So anyone who thinks this is a joke, I told you that the time of playing politics is past. This is about the nation and its leaders, the land that our forefathers fought for. So if you think we are playing politics here, you are completely wrong. Masamba Asiana. It's time for us to come together and always remember that Zimbabwe comes first. And there was a day that I wrote that, you know what, all of us, we are going to die and leave this Zimbabwe, right? So why are we fighting today? We might as well resolve our issues and at least leave this country in a condition that our children will be able to live peacefully. Because if we don't deal with Emerson Mnangagwa and his oligarchs and criminals, I can guarantee you today, this fight will not end. It will continue. In fact, that's going to be the mantle that Mnangagwa will pass in the next generation. Because when you look at the characteristics of people in ZANU-PF, they are violent by nature, unnecessarily so. But because it's a culture that was built over years, and then it becomes life. Violent in Zimbabwe, it is life. Police are beating people unnecessarily. Women, you just see fighting. Women are being beaten by men. Men are being beaten by women. Children are also fighting. It's just chaos everywhere. We need to put a stop to what Mnangagwa has done to our country. That's what I can tell you now. And together we can do it. So tomorrow, 31st, is the beginning of freedom. Don't worry. They are not smart. I know people are desperate to know what is really going on. No, what is going on is what you're going to be seeing from tomorrow. Yeah, it's time to put criminals behind bars. People are wasting money right under our eyes. Actually, saw a video where Mnangagwa was complaining about cartels in healthcare. And I said to myself, sir, you're not the right person for the job. If you are complaining as a president to us citizens who actually expecting you to do your job, then you are not the right one that we need. It's time for you to be shipped out. We need to get to a point where we do away with the culture of worshiping people and begin to look at, are you really executing your duties? If you can't execute your duties, so why do we waste our time with you? Because we can love you while you're at the farm, okay? We can still love you. But to keep a man who can't deliver under the guise of, no, because I like him, no, guys, life don't work like that. For those that are following Madlanga Commission right now, you can see what's going on. You have not seen what's coming to Zimbabwe yet. Zimbabwe is going to burn when people are dragged to prison for stealing from the poor. Unfortunately, it's coming and it is time. I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section. Always remember that I love you so much. May God bless you and may God bless Zimbabwe. Bye for now.